Welcome to We Learn. This is session number 3, part 2 on software quality and testing. On types of testing, we are covering here in this session. Types of testing covering here to consistency testing, regression testing, smoke testing, top-down testing, bottom-up testing, end-to-end testing, automated testing, user testing, protection testing, database testing, boundary testing, volume testing, and basic path testing. Here let's start with today in this session with the formal inspection here. Basically a structural method to identify defect in various artifacts and that used in the development process as well as in the deliverable. So the artifacts include the requirements document, design document, coding standards, program codes, reports, and others. Here the code walkthrough is a standard method that used in the formal inspections here. So usually a team of the people that perform this activity and log defect in the formal fashion here. So let's see here the formal inspection basically to check here the what we did in the designing in the document and coding is appropriate or not here. It check the basically program report and other thing here to work all the standard method that we use in the software. So it's check the all this thing are to well proper established done here or not. So usually the team people here to perform this activity and log that effect is the formal fashion accordingly or not. And next is here the consistency testing. In the consistency testing, the testing method that to verify the consistency of data in application. So it is very important because some data stored in two different format by any cause of the problem that can be raised. For example, here the name field may use 20 character as field length in the one place and different field length at other place may cause consistency problem here. So in the consistency testing that it verify the data should not be here to duplicate and it's very important to store in the different format what may sometime cause the problem to it maintain here in the consistency testing. Next is here the regression testing. This is regression testing basically a mechanism to conduct repeated test in every new version of software by using some test script and test plan. This would ensure that compiling effect wherein the fixing defect in one part of the application could potentially create defect in previously and correct the segments that are taken care in the development cycle. So this is helpful when you are releasing multiple versions of software. That is means to be clear. Hope what is to be mean here the regression testing that is conducted at the repeated test and every new version of software. The version is releasing every time here after some time period of interval and the test script which make here and the test plan should be done here and they make sure that the compiling which are affecting and defect on the one part and the application could be potentially to be create and defect previously can correct segment here and that are taken and the care of the development of the cycle. So this was helpful to when you are releasing multiple version of software. So this is very important to hear when releasing multiple of version of software to test the regression testing. Next is the smoke testing. Smokes after the regression testing is required more time and people here and also complete software may not be ready for rigorous testing and initially testing is carried out on important functional behavior so that it can taken up for further testing. So smoke testing mainly ensure that all function work correctly on a new software before being subjected to rigorous testing. This is pre-qualification test here basically. That let's see the main purpose of the smoke testing to check the complete software in the rigorous testing is completely working or not and make sure that initially is carried out to be important functional and it to be taken to further testing to make the more ensured function is working correctly in the node for new software. So this was the main purpose of to use here smoke testing. Next is here the top down testing. Basically in the top down testing, the test the application through the white box method. So in the starting with the main program and going down unit by unit. So it involves creation of stubs if a lower level unit is not ready here. So this is the method is useful if the system is large and develop many people. I would like to tell you what is going to here in the top down testing. I hope it should be very clear to if you are going to develop something, that you have the fun is the major goal and the big task here. When you divide into the small part, so you go to word test over the one what was the beginning, you have the main full task, and it test to be first it, and then when it break it in sub part, then it check in the subdivision part that is done of the software, it test, and then it those small part here. So similarly, when the breaking and done over the last part of a task in the sub part, it tests again to go from the top to bottom strategy here. So this involves the creation of subs of the lower level unit is not ready here. So this is the method is useful if the system is large and develop many people. But it is difficult to wait for all modules to get ready before the testing actually begins. So this method also ensures that the requirements are tested well in advance here. So this was the top to down testing here. Next is the reverse of it is the bottom up testing. That is reverse of the top down. This test application of the white box method. So this starting with the lower level unit. That's go to reverse. As we know, in the top down we go with the big module and divide it into small, but in the bottom we take the small part and combine it and to test here. After take the again small part and they combine here, and finally they all combine the overall software units. So then it says the bottom up testing. So what the slides in front of you is written here, to test the application by white box method, and starting with the low level unit and going up unit by unit. It involves creation of deliver when a higher level unit is not ready. In this method, as and when the module are ready, testing starts. Here the module level tests are carried out first and the same level of later. Next is here end-to-end testing. That test the function of system by involving all possible components, which includes hardware, software, other component process, and people. So in the end-to-end testing that provide from the system is to be start and to be deliver here. So it check for end-to-end it very necessary to be functional system that is involved or possibly components is working properly or not, and the included hardware, software, all the part of the that is under process is to be tested to work is correctly or not. So this is all thing which included from the end-to-end testing is checking here. Next is here the automated testing. In the automated testing, the testing is a complex process that for a large system basically. In the last system, that manually test is difficult and the time consuming. So in order to avoid this, automated tools are used for testing, and it is a method to execute series of test cases automatically during the test using testing tools. What says here the automated ones means automatically here means testing is done as you are working, and some automatic tests work on here side by side. Let's see you example. Sometimes you see in the Word document when you are working and automatically we test checking error spelling are applied here. So as you typing mistake here, that automatically test the grammatical mistake as well as the something mistake, it show by the red color of line. So in the automated testing, the testing is the something complex process. But for the large system, that manual testing is sometimes very difficult and the time consuming also. So to avoid this automated tool that used here in the testing, that execute a series of tests automatically, and using the testing tool it tests whether there's some error are here or not. So it's very helpful for the large system on the large project. Next is the user testing. In the user testing, that collect all the user scenarios that through the real user exercise and test the software. And that participation by user is very important in this type of testing. So the user testing, and the user required all the thing very necessary to be according to the user. That exercise that tests the all software and participation of the user is here to very important for the user testing. That its name implies the user here. So user test it according to his level, what is getting is very is correct or not. So here they check by the user level also. Next is the protection testing. After all the covering this testing, that's very important role of the protection testing. It is a method to verify whether the information is protected or not. It is a method to find the presence of faults which could result in corruption of data, denial of services, unauthorized access, or protection against the attackers. That why we are doing protection on our data. That unauthorized person to be can access the data, and some corruption can also be created in the result. So our data should be very protected. That is very necessary to apply some protection testing over the here to perform the protection is done properly or not. That an unauthorized person is not able to attack on the data whatever you want to access. So it's very necessary to check the protection testing here. Next is the database testing. And the database testing, a testing method is to identify database related error. The database basically where the data is actually store information, and some software that we are using to in the database to collect data, and user can fetch according to the data from its database. So database are that separated from the program code basically. It's a different part of it other than the coding here. So this is the database must be separate for the integrity of the data, and the schema and other related details are to be tested related to the database. In the database, there is some schema and then table structure and the record here. And all this, the record and schema must be checked to be done properly and or not. So in this type of testing, we are working on the database. So this is the part of beside on the coding area, it to be tested properly data is extracting or not. So this type of testing is come under the database testing. Next is the boundary testing. In the boundary testing, they test the software with extreme input level values and cause it to generate extreme output value. Basically, it is the part of the black box testing in which we check the data by taking its boundary value, because we are not checking its internal level. By boundary value, we check the data is correct. We are software that we are getting values correct or not. For example, if we take the value, we are taking value from 1 to 100. If the user are giving the value of below of the value of 1, then it give the error. And if the data that above the 100 value, then again there should be error. But the data in between from 1 to 100, it should be give the correct result. So this kind of the division of the at the boundary level that I taken in this example from 1 to 1 and 100. That is, if I need data only between 1 to 100, so here the boundary is only 1, that is beginning, and 100 is the last. And if data is getting above 100 and or below the 1, that means there is something that is not in the our according to our needs. So there can be sometime regarding this value can create the problem here. So this type of testing here in the boundary testing. Next is the volume testing. In the volume testing, that a kind of load testing basically here, that how much type of the volume you are giving the software, and whether it's giving corresponding that volume in correct result or not. So in the volume testing, that wherein the large amount of data are processed through the system. So it check whether the work is according to be software we are getting or not, to be given the large amount of volume over the software. So and correct according to the required here. Next is the basic part testing here. In the basic, that is the white box method to test the software using flow diagram and all executable path. Basically, this is the part of the white box testing. In the white box, we are going to, that I already told you in the last session, we check the internal part, internal coding area. In the coding area that contains some logical statements and conditional statements here. that and the loop are also here, that we can move from starting to end state directly from the one path also, and that is can be a short path, and some more path also here, that if we are using condition yes and no part is here. If I test the data from starting to end by using no part, that's something yes part is left here. So we need to here the test all the path related condition yes and not to be here, and all the different path that come across within the coding to be need test carefully here. So in the white box testing, it tests the software using the flow of diagram all the executable path, that is all different possible path that can be tested here at least once here. So it is very important and good in the basic path of testing. This is the exercise that you can do it by yourself, is what is regression testing and how boundary value testing is helpful in the black box testing. That's all in this session. Now we are winding up here. Thank you so much. Happy learning. We learn.